How do I know whether my company is growing or not? I alluded to the fact that, when's a good time to expand your business? It should be when you have a strong balance sheet. One of the ways you know whether or not your company is growing is to kind of see where your cash has gone. I'll give you just an example to illustrate the point. I spent some time with a business, a conglomerate of businesses actually, and they were going through a pretty tough time. Needless to say, their bank facilities had disappeared. The cash was really tight. Anyway, just kind of a really tough situation. But one of the things that the entrepreneur asked me one day after a couple of months of, kind of piecing things back together, he says, like, how do I know if any of this is even working? Like, we've been in the fire for a couple of months now. We're putting out fires every single day, and I can't really tell like what's going on. Like, are we moving the needle? Is something actually happening here? And so what I did is we took his balance sheet, which is, as a quick refresher, balance sheet is like your personal net worth statement. What do you owe? Where are your assets? What do you owe? Like, what are your liabilities? And then what are your retained earnings, or what's the value left over after you deduct or take away your liabilities from your assets? So all we did is we took kind of a 4 month snapshot, and just month over month, we just compared his balance sheet. How much cash do you have in the bank 120 days ago, 90 days ago, 30 days ago? How big were your liabilities 120 days ago, 90 days ago, 60 days ago? And all we did was just compare line item over line item. And what he was able to see is that the profit that the business had been generating, because they were in fact generating profit, it was thin, but it was there. We could kind of see where all that cash ended up going and what difference it was making. And so while his cash balance wasn't, and his line of credit balances weren't really that much different month over month over month, his accounts receivable, his accounts payable and his long-term liabilities were quite a bit different just over that period of time. So how do you know whether or not your company is growing? Look at your balance sheet and see where the movement is. If you just compare your assets on the same day every month, so January 31st, February 28th, March 31st, April 30th, just look at the same liabilities or look at the same assets on your balance sheet and go, which direction is this going? And try to see if you're seeing growth. Are you seeing that you're investing your money back into new equipment? Are you seeing that your accounts payable is decreasing and your accounts receivable is increasing disproportionately? And that will tell you that your business is growing. Conversely, if you look at your balance sheet on the same day over a period of months, and you see that your accounts payable is going up and your accounts receivable is going down, and you see that maybe the balance of cash in your bank account has remained the same or is dropping a little bit, that's usually a pretty quick sign to tell you that your business, in fact, is not growing. Even though you might hear the phones ringing, you might feel like you're always depositing checks and customers are really happy and the staff is super excited and things are going really, really well. But when you look at the math, you go, well, this doesn't make sense. Our balance sheet seems to be getting weaker by virtue of our liabilities increasing and our assets decreasing. Something's got to be wrong. And that should be the first signal that should alert you to the fact that you need maybe to do a deep dive into your business to figure out what's going on. So how do I know whether my company is growing or not? Take a look at your balance sheet and see where the movement is. If your assets are going up and your liabilities are going down, you're in the right direction and you're growing. If your liabilities are going up and your assets are going down, chances are you're not growing. And for entrepreneurs, the tough signal is your staff, your customers, your bank account, the sales@sales.com email address is filling up. You've got people inquiring about how to buy your products and services. So it feels like there's a lot going on. But beneath the surface, there might not actually be a lot going on. You might be spending more than you're making. You might have hired more people than you actually need. You might be buying more things for your business than what the business actually requires to do its job. And so the noise and the kind of the rhythm of the business can be terribly misleading. So make sure that you interpret it correctly. So that's it. That's all I've got for you today. That's the end of my questions that entrepreneurs ask episode. So thanks for hanging out. I certainly appreciated a couple of the notes that I got from the podcast, actually, because I turned this into a podcast. And just neat to see that some of you are getting some real value out of this. It is lonely being an entrepreneur, so it's nice sometimes to hear some very practical, tactical advice that might help you and run your business a little better. So thanks for tuning in, and hopefully we catch up with you again next week.